it's been a few weeks. We did say we'll try and get the fans up to date with what's happening. So it's been a couple of weeks gone by. But first of all, obviously, the whole football club has been rocked early this week by the tragic, sad passing away of Christian Mbulu, and how fitting it is as well just to think he hasn't been with you that long down in the club, that your supporters, people from your club as well, have hung the shirts outside the Alexander Stadium, and then Mbulu 30 on the back, tributes are there, flowers are there. Just want to get your views of the last few days that this news broke.
Yeah, I think obviously it's extremely sad. You know, I think to lose any footballer is a tragic turn of events because they're fit young men, and Christian was no different. You know, obviously 23 is no age, absolutely no age. And coupled with the fact that he was just a terrific guy, he was effervescent, full of life, always smiling, and just a great guy with good morals, and it makes it even worse. You know, a couple of lads who were really close to him have not taken it well, and we'll put our arms around them and make sure they got all the comfort and love and support that they need. I'd say the good tend to go early, and he was a good guy, a real top guy, I have to say.
The one thing he proved, Dave, to you through the summer when you turned the clock back nearly 12 months ago, that's how it moves on. He came on to do some training. He hadn't got no contract. He didn't know where his future was. And he came back and he actually made his debut and played in the first team. I think that about sums him up, what he was.
Well, like I say, he was a fighter. He was a trier. He was a good kid. You know, the fact that we couldn't manage to get a deal done, not from his side by any stretch of the imagination, and then we had to move because of a few injuries, just goes to show how much he was a good pro. And I always feel that the best pros are the best people deep down, and he was one of them guys. I have to say, he was terrific. He was no trouble. He'd do anything you'd say. He'd take everything on board. You know, when we speak about players that aren't at our football club, we ask ourselves, are they coachable? Well, he certainly was. He'd take everything on board and twice on a Sunday kind of thing, because he was just so easy to get on with, so personable, so receptive to the help that you were trying to offer him, and he'd give it you back in spades. I have to say, he was a terrific guy, and you know, the footballing gods didn't smile favourably on him because, you know, he'd been released a couple of times from a couple of clubs, but he was going to have a career because he had the raw attributes that would have opened doors for him. And then on the back of that, he had a great attitude, and like I say, he was coachable, so he was only ever going to get better. Yes, he needed some guidance, and like I say, he was still a bit raw. But he'd have had a career in football because of all them attributes. He was just a top guy.
Well, the world moves on, and everything is hopefully moving on in a positive way. We heard the government's latest moves on lockdown for the public, the general public. March the 7th was the last time your boys' first team level kicked a football, and you went top of the table again. Can you bring your supporters, who I'm pretty sure have been waiting for you to come? That's nothing against you. You've been waiting for something to happen. Can you bring them up to date in terms of where you are today with what's the latest news?
Well, obviously, the EFL released a statement, I think it was this morning, based on their latest board meeting on Wednesday. There's obviously been, they've obviously put the EFL board, that obviously consists of non-exec directors and obviously the chairman, Mick Parry, but also directors from the Championship, League One and League Two. They've put their colours to the mast a couple of weeks ago, stating quite clearly they want the seasons to finish in League One and League Two with points per game. With the idea being that's the closest to the current regulations as possible. Obviously, there's some clubs resisting that, and you can argue the merits of why and how and what's in it for each club. And I understand that. I get that. But I've spoke to various people, and my view doesn't change. That for me, the priority of the health and safety of the staff, whether that be players, whether that be groundsmen, whether that be safety officers that have to be involved in games, or any sort of backroom staff. The first priority is human life in my book. And I don't think that can be ignored or taken for granted. As we've quite clearly seen in these last few days with Christian, don't even mess around with stuff where life's concerned. So that's the first thing. And I think this is the next bit. I think this is where the big difference comes. For me, the next biggest point is looking after the football pyramid. Whereas I think most people at that point will look after themselves. So I think, we have to give massive credit to Carol Shanahan, for example, across the M6 there, who's taken the decision probably to the detriment of her own football club. Now, yes, the cynical side of people might say, well, actually, she didn't want to spend the money anyway that had come with testing and all the rest of it. That might be true, and that might have played a small or large part in her thinking. We don't know. But the fact of the matter is, morally, she's done a terrific gesture. As it turns out, it helps us. But that's secondary to that decision. You've now got clubs in League One who are only thinking about themselves and don't give a monkeys whether Rochdale go out of business, Southend go out of business, Macclesfield go out of business, Oldham go out of business. They don't give a monkeys for the sake of one season. Well, these clubs have been here for 130 years, 150 years, some of them. And for the sake of literally 6 weeks, 8 weeks of the season, they're trying to put clubs into administration, put them to the wall. I think that's criminal. I think that's really poor. And I understand why they've invested lots of money, their own personal money, and they want to do right by their own football club. But for me, there's a football pyramid that needs looking after before any individual football club's sort of own personal wants and needs comes before that. And I think that's the stance that Rick Parry's taking at the FL, and I have to say, I believe that's great credit. Yes, there'll be some winners and losers. Do Tranmere deserve to go down having won the last three? Well, for me, when people say, they've won the last three, they've got a worse record over the last 36 games than AFC Wimbledon. And if that's the way it's decided, then that's the way it's decided. Don't just choose the last three. So there's arguments either way for both. I think the football pyramid should be as intact as much as it can be. That's my opinion.
Dave, it's a massive financial burden, isn't it, on the lower league clubs? What has happened with the impact of lockdown? You're in conversation with your board of directors. What do you think it's had on your football club in terms of finance?
Well, of course, it's had a detrimental effect. There's not one club in the country that's not had a detrimental effect. It's minimising the liability, minimising the the risk that comes with it. In terms of us as a football club, when we've got sort of a low budget to start off with, we can't lose more than what we already spend. Whereas when you're spending 34 million quid in League One on players, well, in theory, you've got 34 million quid with a liability on your hands with no income. We're, that's just in a different league to us. So, we've just got to minimise the risk. Plot our way through as best we can, penciling numbers where we think is our best guess, inking numbers that we know, and then sorry, I had a phone call then from one of the directors. I don't know if you saw any of my face then, I don't know. But we've just got to try and plot our way through as best we can, and that's the same for any club.
everything's up in the air, you know, in terms of where you are for planning for 2021 season. You know, you don't know when you're going to start, when you can get them back in pre-season training or anything like that. And we're not sure whether it's going to be behind closed doors. Could you cope with behind closed doors football at League One level for a few months?
Yes. We just cut your cloth accordingly. What I would say about our football club is we've got. I can't speak for the new directors just yet, but certainly the ones that I've had the majority of my tenure under, they are fantastic people. And by that I mean they're honest, they're upfront, they're straight. They will never put the club in danger. So even when something like this that's unexpected comes along, they are working extremely hard to plot their way through some real murky waters. And that's not an easy feat. That's not to be sniffed at. But I think it goes back to this time last year. And further beyond that, it's how you run your football club. It's the sort of corporate governance, the financial sustainability of any football club. I think you're only as good as the morals of your own board. And if you push the boat out as a football club, or if you're constantly living beyond your means and go, well, I'll just rack up debt or whatever, tells me a story. And then when the proverbial hits the fan, well, don't come crawling to anyone else. You know, that's so I'm sort of contradicting what I was saying earlier about you've got to look after the football pyramid, because the counter argument is, well, if they've put themselves in that position, tough luck kind of thing, and I get that. But for me, it's tricky. It's going to be ridiculously difficult for football clubs all up and down the pyramid. You know, yes, the Premier League clubs might be shielded slightly, but I think Manchester United have lost best part of 30 million quid already. So we're sort of all in the same boat. Just the numbers have got a few more notes on the further up the tree you go. So we've just got to make do with what we do. You know, what we've got, and plot our way through.
Has the uncertainty had a major effect on your planning, your forward planning, Dave?
Yes, but only in terms of only in terms of when we can make decisions. Do the numbers change slightly? Well, of course, we've got to look at them every day. It's such a changing picture. One day it might be this, the next day this, next week that, and we just don't know. That's the truth. That's the hard bit. You know, when is the season going to start? Big factor. When a fan's going to be let in? Big factor. Is in them first 10 games that are behind closed doors? Do we play Sunderland, Ipswich, Barnsley? But you know what I mean? Are all the big gates going to come in the first 10 games where we can't have fans? First half of the season when we can't have fans? Is it going to go through to Easter when we can't have fans? So there's all them different parameters that is very difficult to predict. It's very difficult to make decisions on, both our own players, reoffering contracts, and when, what level to bring in players. Never mind just the sort of number one decision of which league will we be in. So there's so many different factors that are still outstanding. That sort of plans are we're trying to guess where we're going to go, and educated guesses, if you like, whilst also maintaining the semblance of responsibility, towards the financial aspect going forward.
Under your managerial regime, it's been a real steady but very good progress on and off the field. What I'm trying to say is we've talked about one thing that you got back was getting your own players signing contracts and staying at the football club. You've got a terrific group of players. And I'm going to think back probably 3 or 4 months ago where we interviewed Charlie Kirk, who made a great line when he said, well, if we go up, why can't we stay together and go on again? Which is a fantastic line for somebody like a youngster like that. What I'm trying to say to you, Dave, is do you think you'll be in a better position to try and keep your own players that might be sort of running down on contracts because you've assembled them and know what their ability is? Do you think you've got a better chance?
You could argue yes, in the sense that our club's going to come and spend the money on our players. But then that undermines our whole business model. On the flip side of it, you could say no, because with new financial regulations, when money's tighter, our players suddenly become even greater value for money. So it depends which side of the fence you sit on. You know, if I'm at Derby or Bristol City or Notts Forest, do I see any of our players of real good value for money on probably 2/3 of the money that the current, you know, full-back, centre forwards, centre-half, centre midfielders on? Yes, I do. Obviously, then it boils down to how much it is to do a deal. Now, we haven't had any bids. I don't envisage any bids. So it depends which side of the coin you sit on, or fence you sit on. It's another uncertainty. It's another thing that affects cash flow forecasts for us. But it's one that we sort of used to, really, in that sense. It's one that we pay particular close attention to finances, and we do. We are diligent in our work. I truly believe that, and that's why the club's in good hands.
This leads me on to the next question. We've just been talking about salary caps have been muted. Looks as though they're going to come in. I think, if I'm right, if you were in League One, with fingers crossed, you are going to be in League One. £2.5 million. I'm not saying you're going to reach that area, Dave. But is that positive or negative, salary caps?
Again, it depends which side of the fence you sit on. For us, it don't make a jot of difference whether we're in League One or League Two. That's the first thing to say. I think if you're spending 34 million quid on players' wages, like one club in League One did last year, I think you're going to struggle to get under 2.5 million quid in a couple of years' time when it's sort of fully phased in. So I think you've got to understand that it's done for the benefit of the football club, so to stop a bury happening. So I know for a fact, because I'm not going to say who, but I know someone who's been on the SCMP, the Salary Cap Management Protocol Committee working group, since last summer, and they've worked extremely hard to come up with a process that will make sure football clubs live within their means. And this is one of them. I've seen other things from Damien Collins with Mark Palios right behind him, thinking he's a football czar, bringing in whole new regulations for their own ends again, which is not going to work. You're just bringing in more regulations, so more loopholes. And giving supporters 49% of a football club because you've borrowed £1 million off the government, and a non-executive director who's still in a minority share is just not going to work. Not because it's fans. That's not the point. They'll still get voted down by the majority of the people on the board if they still want to spend money, and it'll put the government, probably state-owned, they own about 8 football clubs. So that's not going to work. And although the intentions are right, they haven't thought it through. I saw the Shrewsbury MP had backed to carry on the football season, much to the annoyance of the Shrewsbury chairman and players and managers and all the rest of it. And I just thought that he couldn't even be able to pick up phone and make one phone call to Shrewsbury Town, which sort of shows how much work's gone into it. But it'll get traction because it's MPs and all that. It's political. I do think something needs to happen. It won't affect us. The number of players is going to be limited. Over 21, the amount of money you can spend on players' wages is going to be limited in League One, League Two, and the Championship. So I think it's the right thing to do. The counter argument is it going to be a talent drain, if you want for a better term? You only have to look in Super League. The best players go and play in the NRL, in the Rugby Premiership. the best players go and play in France for Toulon and places like that. In domestic cricket in England, they go and play in the IPL to make the money up. So you've got to be really careful that the best players don't go elsewhere and the EFL becomes further detached from the Premier League. The problem is that the Premier League is running away with the money, and that's their own prerogative. And the Championship, a lot of the Championship clubs are trying to keep up their on their tails, if you like, and putting themselves in serious, a perilous position, spending money that they quite simply haven't got. And then obviously that filters all the way down and comes into League One when you've got £34 million budgets, etc., etc. So, there's the polarisation of football might get greater between League Two and the Premier League, if you like, and each stage in between. But I do think it protects the integrity and the football pyramid as it is, which is probably the greatest element of the English game.
A lot of clubs are releasing their retain list, Dave. They're coming out quite a lot and big numbers as well. Have you any update on when you can do yours or where you're up to with your retain list?
We'll be doing ours next week. Ideally, we'd have done it after a decision on the league. But I think morally it's wrong to let the players wait any longer. We'll be in June next week. And don't get me wrong, we're going, well, does divisional status affect things? Of course it does. Are we prepared to live and die by decisions based on the decisions we make before we know exactly what division we're in? Well, we're going to have to, because I'd rather my players think that I'm trying my best for them and giving them as much early warning of what, if they're not going to be kept on as possible. Don't get me wrong, if we waited a week, would it make much difference? I don't think it would, because I'm not sure many clubs are going to go do any signing in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, probably 2 months. But I just think it's morally right that we've waited long enough. And for the clubs that haven't got anything to play for, then I can understand why they've already done it. We've potentially still got lots to play for. I don't think it'd change much anyway if we did have to come back and play. Because I think we've got a brilliant group of fellas who morally understand that they're in a privileged position, and they'd give everything. They would give everything for the football club if they'd already been given bad news and then had to come back and play. So, like I said, I'd rather have done it after the decision from the EFL, but I think morally we've waited too long, and we've got to tell them it's only fair on the players. I've been there, and it's not nice not knowing.
Obviously, as you just mentioned, we're coming towards starting of June. We're nearly just a couple more questions, Dave, before we wrap it all up. We're coming towards June. This sounds a bit daft, but pre-season, what do you do? How do you organise games, training? Has it changed now from being on lockdown for the players, or in terms of their own routines? Where are you up to?
Well, I got through last night the phase 2 of the training protocols. I've had a meeting with director, safeguarding officer, club doctor, in terms of what outline plan we would have to put in place if we did return. That hasn't taken into account, like I said, the phase 2 policies and procedures that came out yesterday. But I'm sure that will be discussed going forward. In terms of, obviously, I know for a fact there's League 2 clubs in the playoff clubs going back to train on Monday, having been tested today and yesterday. So they'll have to have all them stuff, them procedures in place. Are we being granted a bit more time? Well, I'm hoping we're granted another 2 or 3 months' time until we're actually back in pre-season. And I think that will be the case. So what will it look like? I have no idea. Hopefully when we do return, I have no idea, because I'm hoping the world, although it'll be a different place, might look quite familiar. So, so that's the sort of practicalities of, testing and stuff. We can't afford to basically put a cotton bud up somebody's nose and send it to a laboratory. And all League Two clubs are in the same position, and the majority of League One clubs are. Just that some are sort of throwing the toys out of the pram because it adversely affects their chances of either promotion or relegation. So, hopefully the virus goes the way it has been going in the last few weeks. Hopefully people do stay socially distanced, and don't drive 260 miles to see people, because it will impact on on the R rate, if you like, if we get a bit technical. And we keep seeing a decrease in deaths, because that's the ultimate what we all want to see, so that we can get back to a fair degree of normality, and hopefully that will coincide with us going back to work, because we know we're going back, and we know that fans will be allowed in the stadiums.
Just one final point, and I think everybody understands why you've kept your cards close to your chest from you as the manager, your directors, your players, about where you'll be next season, because you haven't had that confirmed. Hopefully, it's going to be the right way, and you'll get what you deserve to be a League One club. The supporters, as you know, would love to be celebrating promotion with you, with your staff, with your players. Will you try, if when it is done, something that can be done for the fans?
I'm sure them discussions will take place once it's been ratified. But until then, I'm certainly not counting my chickens before they're hatched. People have texted me and sort of said, "Oh, congratulations!" Certainly after the League Two vote, and I just said it's not been confirmed. It hasn't. Until it does, we'd be foolish to make plans. Once it has, well, I'm sure we'll all have a get together at some point in the future, because the fans will quite rightly and justifiably want to celebrate with the players who are doing a terrific job. So hopefully that'll be the case. But at this moment in time, I'm certainly not planning anything. I'm certainly not going to go to the shops and buying great loads of beer like some of the reporters are.
Well, that's not me. So I was going to say taxi talking today. I'm not going to mention the name who it is, but it definitely isn't me.
I'm not going to mention any names, Graham, but it begins with P and ends in E.
He's got the same initials as Boris Johnson, Prime Minister.
Yeah, it starts with P and ends in Eatamos